प्रोटेस्ट की जो स्पिरिट है, जो पहले बहुत सारी कंट्रडिक्शन के बावजूद जो कम्युनिटीज थी उनकी एक यूनिटी का सबब बन रहा था, जरिया बन रहा था। तो ऐसी फोर्सेस के लिए फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट होना और इस टाइप की डिफरेंट अपोजिट इंटरेस्ट वाली कम्युनिटीज की यूनिटी होना, और यहाँ पे इंडिया में बहुत सारी स्टेट्स हैं जिनके अपने अपने टकरावे एक दूसरे के अगेंस्ट इंटरेस्ट भी है। फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट हर एक के लिए एक होप बन गया था कि हाँ, हम इस टाइप की गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट लड़ सकते हैं, हम ये जो पॉलिसीज आ रही हैं उनके अगेंस्ट भी लड़ सकते हैं। तो साथ साथ ही दूसरे चैलेंजेस भी थे जैसे फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट लाजमी तौर पे अगर हम पंजाब हरियाणा, बड़ा रोल रहा है, मेजर रोल रहा है फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट में। वहां के फार्मर, मेजॉरिटी फार्मर अपर कास्ट से आते हैं, लैंड अर्निंग तो वो है ही है, और उनमें कुछ वो कास्ट डोमिनेंट या कास्ट वाली ईगो से भी ऑब्सेस्ड है। और कहीं ना कहीं जैसे हम ऐसे कहेंगे कि राइट विंग गवर्नमेंट के अगेंस्ट फार्मर स्ट्रगल और न्यू लिबरल पॉलिसी कारपोरेट एजेंडा के अगेंस्ट फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट, और साथ साथ विद इन द फार्मर प्रोटेस्ट एक राइट विंग भी काम कर रहा था।
Battles are always fought at two levels. There is a battle on ground and there's a battle in narratives. And I come from a generation for whom 1984, the year 1984 was a watershed year. I was 11 years old. I was stunned by what had happened. Not only the attack on the Darbar Sahib, but also my parents lived in Odisha, and at that tender age I was in Punjab. For 7 weeks we couldn't connect with each other, and I thought perhaps they're dead, like it's trauma. And I thought that through all these various phases of Punjab's struggle, wherever it could narrate itself well and hold peace, use peace as a weapon in the 20th century to fight, Punjab has won. And by Punjab, in the farmers' protest, we mean Haryana, West UP, Rajasthan, some parts of Madhya Pradesh, even the farmers from Karnataka and the rest of the country who supported the protest. But wherever the fight has become violent, and wherever we could not hold the narrative, we have lost. So the idea to support the farmers' protest was to hold the narrative. And how do I personally hold it? Of course BJP was attacking, of course mainstream media was attacking, of course all sorts of terms were flung. I said not counter them at all. Just lift your narrative to a level where you dominate and all others fall short. So don't waste your energy saying, oh no, we are not this, oh no, we are not. No, you say what you want to say. But I'm going to say this, and you will see that sooner or later, not only the people but the government will listen, and the government listened. And in independent India's history, there have been some strikes which have succeeded, massively succeeded. In Bangalore, 3 years back, the garment workers' strike succeeded after a 16-hour band, right? But under this dispensation, under a leader who has never taken back anything in his life, I think the farmers' protest succeeding was the golden moment of India's democracy. And look at it, just after the protest got over, in Bangalore we have the hijab issue, we have the halal issue. None of this was happening when the protest was on. The whole Hindutva bandwagon did not know how to deal with this. And I think that was our victory as people.
After a long time, Punjab again came into the discourse with the farmers, in South at least, I would say. After the Khalistan movement again, it's coming into the national paper front pages actually. The farmers movement, after the farmers movement started happening. And in 80s actually, as far as we are concerned, it is actually top in the top 10 states in the GDP, agricultural production and all these kind of things. And the one of the best examples of green revolution and its result, what happened in India. But several times when you actually speak about Punjab, you say that the green revolution started much prior. Can you just actually talk about that history?
Post-partition, post-independence of India, we faced a great grain crisis in the 50s and early 60s. And so at the same time, there were scientific developments happening in the world. Norman Borlaug had discovered the dwarf quality wheat. There was other genetically modified rice varieties. And they thought, okay, let's choose a region where we can grow these crops in great abundance and basically be able to feed the nation. But when we were growing these crops, we brought in fertilizers, we brought in pesticides, we brought in higher technology, machinery, tractors, and later combine harvesters. And all of that created this green revolution. Of course, every 2 years, Punjab started doubling its output. But look at, we are sitting here in Karnataka, and we are sitting in Bangalore, and we have had Professor Nanjan Swami here, and he was a critique of the Green Revolution even then. He was saying that if 85% of India is rain-fed, then why are we marshalling these rivers to produce food? Why can't we do another kind of agriculture? Look at what happened to the people of Karnataka, Andhra, South India overall. Our ragi was our basic staple diet. But then the PDS started pumping in wheat because Punjab was producing wheat. The Green Revolution has also harmed our country a lot, I think. And I argue that actually this wasn't a Green Revolution. Because to me a revolution happens when the modes of production change. The mode of production are not scaled up. This Green Revolution scaled up the mode of production. But when did the mode of production change? And that changed when the British, after Tipu in South India, the last sort of region pending for the British to colonize was Punjab. And Maharaja Ranjit Singh had this agreement with the British, they will not cross river Satluj, and Punjab was not colonized until Maharaja Ranjit Singh dies, and then the British create a lot of fights among his heirs, and then there are 2 Anglo-Sikh wars, and then Punjab is colonized in 1849 finally. Immediately after that, what the British did is reduce the level of education in Punjabi society. They realize that if we now have Punjab and further than that, and this Punjab is not this India Punjab, and this Punjab is the Pakistan Punjab also, this is until Peshawar. This is actually until the Tsar's line, the Russian Tsar. And they said, okay, now colonial state has to protect itself from another colonial state, so we have to put railway lines here. We have to take the trains ahead till there, we have to put military there. When that started happening, they realized that this is a fertile land. So they started river linking projects, basically making canals to link villages, and created these regions of high productivity. But there was no population. So they migrated population from one part of Punjab to another. And this Chunia colony, this Lahoria colony, this Layalpur area, this whole area was actually rehabilitated and turned into the granary of the empire. That to me was the Green Revolution. And of course, like today, that time also British started making laws. There was a Land Alienation Act which was almost like the doctrine of Lapse Act, that if the farmer doesn't have a son, then the land will revert back to the British. There were undue water taxes put on water. And that time this is what I'm talking about is 1880s and later. And in 1907, there was a huge protest again called the Pagdi Sambhal Jatta movement. It was actually led by Lala Lajpat Rai and Sardar Ajit Singh Sandhu, who was Bhagat Singh's uncle. And that time the British panicked because the military had started disobeying orders. And if you look at India today also, it is like, it is that region of the country, the northern belt, which actually feeds the maximum soldiers into the Indian army, right? So there was that fear again in this government as well, as with the British government. But look at the tactics. The very same thing the British were doing, this government was wanting to do. And that is why say Bhagat Singh said that this is not the freedom we wanted. It has only, the power has only, and actually India's freedom is transfer of power. It shifted hands from one party to another. But to me, that was the Green Revolution. The British had to agree to the demands. They had to revoke the laws, exactly like the Modi government had to revoke the laws. And this movement took a lot of inspiration from that movement as well. So, if that was the Green Revolution, then what was this? This to me was the Green Revolution on steroids. And the after effects of that is what Punjab faces now, or has been facing for the last 30 years. Its water table has depleted, its land is growing barren, and there is cancer spreading in the society, there is arthritis spreading in the society, there are bad knees all over the place, there is malnutrition, though it is producing food, but its children are not healthy. And these are the crises that this Green Revolution belt has dealt with.
There are different factions of
PKUs.
Yeah. Different fractions in Punjab. The way the left couldn't work and how they started mobilizing these farmers, because they were actually mostly the major mobilization. For example, Behan to Takonda to different PKUs which is there, and they are not being representing outside as left organizations as well. They are like representing themselves as farmers' organization. So, can you just describe about this entire growth of mobilization of different BKUs?
See, this is how power plays against you, and then you succumb because your line of approach against the power and the possibility of culpability and corruption, it is always there. And how you negotiate that line and how you deal with it, and then somebody falls from you, and like if you look at just the aftermath of the protest, what happened? Now, one tall leader was Balbir Singh Rajewala, right? It was his line through the protest that no politically affiliated person should be part of the SKM, which was the farmers combined talking to the government. Though, of course, Yogendra Yadav has a party of his own, he was allowed to be there, various reasons. Then there was Hanan Molla, who was a 7 times MP. He's such a senior man that nobody wanted to say no to him, so come in, okay, But then they didn't want to give space to others. As soon as the protest gets over, Rajewala says, and even during the protest, Gurnam Singh Chaduni said that I will bid for power, I will contest Punjab elections. They said, okay, suspend, for 1 month or whatever. But Rajewala openly comes and says, I will fight elections. So this created a major fissure in the groups that had come together. I will go back to BKU. I'm just saying this is what happened very recently, just 8 months back. You might remember it a little more if you were looking at it, But what was Rajewala's incentive? He had imagined, and of course Kejriwal had been trying to draw him closer to him, that Kejriwal will give us many seats and we will fight the elections with AAP, and then I will become the CM of Punjab. By the time all this took, because it's not like Modi said, okay, I'll repeal the laws and the farmers will get up and go home. They said, no. You have to first repeal it in the parliament. So they waited 10 days for that repeal to happen. Then they said, okay, but what about our other demands? Then the government again entered negotiations, and some IAS officer wrote a letter, which the farmers finally took that, okay, this is the best we can get at this point. Another winter was coming. Many in India were thinking, oh, they should protest more, but we had lost 730 people in the protests, right? There's a cost of the protest. There's a huge mobilization required for the protest. How long could they have prevailed? I'll tell you personally what was my take in that 21 days between Modi saying that and then leaving. In that 21 days, I would have wished that all the farmers all across the country send 500 tractors to their Vidhan Saudas. Just protest there, say, give us MSP as well. You see, the government would have succumbed. But we didn't do that. The middle class never came out in support of the farmers' protest. Everyone was happy liking Facebook posts. I was doing Facebook activism in many ways, you know. My posts would come back to me as WhatsApp forwards and this and that. But it's not about liking. I mean, this is not happening here in stratosphere, in social media. This is happening on the ground. And when required, come out and stand, but nobody did. So we can't hold the farmers, you know, wrong for having called off their protest. But we see this one leader, Rajewal, what he starts doing. That creates, and then the past comes out, then even in September, October, there was a letter going around. Of course, there were discussions happening with the government, even though it seemed like nothing was happening, all the time discussions were happening. You know, the one group which, to my mind, stood steady was BKU Ekta Ugraha. And BKU Ekta Ugraha is actually the largest farmer mobilization. I mean, Binduji should have been here today because Binduji doesn't need to be there to rally 2 lakh people. She just gives a call and 5 lakh people come. That is her power as a people's leader. Of course, she had to be there, she has to address them, she has to take care. But I'm saying Ugraha is a group like that. Their cadre is seasoned. That level of training does not happen in other groups or their leaders. Similarly, going back to the question, when Baba Tikayat was there, when the Boat Club rally happened in 1989, when Rajiv Gandhi, after 1 week of protest, agreed to 35 demands that mostly the sugarcane farmers of UP had presented, when Nanjan Swamiji was with Baba Tikayat, that was a different era. That was an era when they had won, they were consolidated. But soon after that, if you look at the 90s politics in Karnataka, when Deve Gowda comes there, when JDS is growing, then they started eroding KRRS. Right? Nanjan Swami was put in jail over that KFC incident. Similarly, there what happens is that Tikayat now knows the Jatland politics of UP. But his program as such could not come to Punjab. Here there were leaders like Lakhowal and Rajewal. These predate even Operation Blue Star, 70s protests. But they had become the leaders of big farmers. The smaller and the farm lands were dividing. The farmers were becoming small and marginal. They were not being addressed by Lakhowal, Rajewal. So then again fissures came in. Then various groups at various times broke out of it. Among them, there are those who adhere to larger leftist but socialist policies like the Ugraha group. But then there are groups which are more oriented towards, say, a sort of a Panthic or a Sikh ideology, which is also about sharing and caring and Sarbat da Pala and all that. But there are these lines of differences between them. And you see, Ugraha is supported by a think tank which is very solid. You know, Ugraha is a face for it. The thinking is happening among him, around him, but he's not alone in that. And these other leaders, say Kokri Kalaji, or Chanda Singh Jetruke, or Harinder Bindu, or Pavel Kussa, or Sudeep, or Inderjeet, Inder Kumar Jeet. These guys are never coming out. They are never like fighting, tussling with Ugraha ji, ki we will take out this much of a union with us. But that kind of, this Rajewal's greed for chair, that affects even unions, and that happens.
Youngsters who are sitting here have an image of Punjab which is from the films like Utta Punjab and all those kind of, But what I have witnessed in that manner is that a lot of youth participation in the entire protest, and you know that the entire the job opportunities to the way the other industries developed in Punjab of it is also very minimal. So there is no job opportunities, joblessness is major issue. And so what does it mean for the youth of Punjab, in terms of, such kind of a large protest to regain their economy in that manner. And the second, question is that still the protest is continuing and still the people are on the streets in Punjab. Now it's against state government maybe. So, what do you think the future of this entire agrarian economy of Punjab in the future? Whether the farm laws repealed or not?
To cut a longer story short, of course, there is partition happens. Then there is it's a vague, but of course there is an obstinate center. So there is a fight over language issue, and then Punjab gets trifurcated. The Punjabi speaking area becomes Punjab, the Hindi speaking area becomes Haryana, some Hindi speaking areas are given to Himachal Pradesh. This is 1966, right? And after that, the Akali domination in Punjab, which was a Sikh political party, it took Punjab through a different journey. But look at the similarity again. It is like the DMK in Tamil Nadu. Right? 1969, the Raja Mannar panel report comes, which asks for greater powers to the states. 1973, the Anandpur Sahib resolution comes out, which asks for greater power to the states. These were documents for greater federalism, and that is a running theme post-independence in India's character, that should we be more federal, should states have more power, or should we be more centralized? This sort of got adjusted in the 1980s. Of course, the Sarkaria Commission constituted in 1980s, it dismissed the Raja Mannar panel report and called Anandpur Sahib resolution as a seditious document. But the fact is that in the 80s our politics changed. We started forming large coalition governments. So whether we were really more federal, notice the constitution, India the union of states. So the emphasis is, where do you put the emphasis? That's the point. Do you put it on union or do you put it on states? That is how you understand this, right? So similarly in 1976, I think there was a West Bengal declaration. Late 70s, there was a Karnataka demand as well, So I'm saying that there were these, from time to time, look at Northeast bursting into flames in the 70s, 80s, like Punjab was bursting into flames. And late 80s, how Kashmir started bursting into flames. These are all, the tension is really this, that do you want a greater federal government or do you want a more centrist government? 80s sorted it out. We started forming governments which were coalition. And so by default, we became more federal. That smaller parties could negotiate with larger parties, get larger seats. These are smaller, even regional parties. Or not, they have to be national party, but they had greater regional presence. But again, in the last decade, we have gone back to an ultra-centrist party. That is the dilemma we are living with in India. Now, where does Punjab fit in here? As a border state. A state which fed the nation. At one time, every third roti that you would eat, every fourth grain of rice that you would put in your mouth was from Punjab. When a state has been given an economic agenda like agriculture, and then it has had its own, again, this federal centralist argument going on to, creating there was a river water protest, the Dharam Yudh Morcha, then there was, of course, Blue Star operation, then Mrs. Gandhi's assassination, then the militancy in Punjab for a decade and a half. All this sort of didn't keep Punjab on the track of progress. No heavy industry was given to Punjab. No employment arenas were created for the youth of Punjab. Education suffered, health suffered. And if you go and now look back at the Anandpur Sahib resolution, what were the demands Punjab was making? Diversify crops. We are already seeing in 10 years, paddy is draining our water. Please diversify that. Please give us small-scale industries, at least if we are a border state. Not giving that. Please give us this much revenue. Please, let's look at the welfare of all levels of society, including, the castes which are not agrarian by nature. but it is not looking at that. And now, post-peace returning to Punjab, as in guns going silent, there are 3-4 more issues added to the same thing. There is unemployment, there is lack of education, there is lack of health, and then there is drugs. Because people, basically, they are trapped by the system. A system which doesn't give them anything and doesn't let them escape. So their only recourse is to get a visa and migrate, huge drain happening in Punjab, or to take drugs and migrate in your head. I mean, that's what drugs do to you. Every big political leader, Congress or Akali, they bit the dust in the elections. Everybody was defeated. Badal, 11 times winner, I think, or whatever, like his son, Amrinder Singh, Sidhu, Majithia, all of them were thrown. But then what do? This is a system. So here is these guys waiting, the AAP. The AAP vote, and I keep emphasizing it, was a negative vote to AAP. It was not a positive vote for change. Because now if we look at it 6 months down the line, keep the Gujarat propaganda out, I can tell you on ground, things have become worse in Punjab. That is the system you have. That is why, say, an Ugraha group's ideology is that the structure has to change, not the system. You can't replace one government with another because nothing changes on the ground. AAP has a different problem. AAP has Kejriwal's control. He's a dictator. And Bhagwan Man's powers have been clipped with Raghav Chadda there now. But now what is happening in Punjab? Of course there is agitation, there is all this. But I look at it as another way, is that when the farmers' protest started, I came up with this thing in my head. I'll say it in Punjabi and then I'll tell you in English as well. Dudh ridak raha, makhan bhi niklu, lassi bhi niklu. That milk is being churned. There will be ghee and there will be buttermilk. Or like Sagar Mantana. There will be amrit and there will be poison. There will be nectar and there will be poison. I saw the farmers protest like that. And exactly like that, those who stood by their values, stood for change, they still remain the center of it. And others who were there seeking their own little agendas, they've all sort of fallen apart now. Like right now, there's a protest going on in front of the CM's house. The Ugraha group is conducting it. 2 months back, there was a protest with another large group, which was actually the antithesis of Ugraha group. But they and Ugraha together, they protest over river waters in Punjab. There were teachers selected by the previous government. This government not only did not give them jobs, beat them black and blue. But this sense of resistance of Punjab, it continues. And that will continue.